Now, 50 years ago this week, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin landed on the moon in one of the greatest achievements in all of human history.
Yes, tomorrow marks the anniversary of the launch of Apollo 11 and that legendary space flight. We'll also have a lunar eclipse, two facts that certainly wouldn't have escaped Sussex and indeed the country's most famous amateur astronomer, the wonderful Sir Patrick Moore.
But few realise the role he played in the Apollo mission itself, drawing maps of the lunar surface that helped guide those astronauts to the Sea of Tranquility. With more, Andy Dickinson.
It's one small step for man. That's the Earth, and we have a very good view of it.
He was one of the region's most eccentric characters and possibly the world's most famous amateur astronomer. Sir Patrick Moore, seen here in this archive footage, arriving at Hurst-Monceau Observatory, where he helped Apollo astronauts land on the moon.
This is the 26th century fracture at Hurst-Monceau Castle in Sussex, the old site of the Royal Greenwich Observatory, and I have a tremendous affection for it.
Patrick Moore loved this place, and he actually used this telescope that you can see behind us, the 26-inch refractor, and he used it as part of his moon mappings. He was so keen on the moon, and it was because he had done all this detailed work that NASA used these maps to help them find out where they were going to land. Apollo 11, the first landing on the moon, of course.
Incredible to think that Patrick didn't just use this telescope to help draw his moon maps, but also his telescope at home in his garden in Chelsea as well. The maps themselves not just used for the Apollo missions, but also by the Russians.
Patrick was involved with both the Russians and the Americans. He was always very even-handed. He was never partisan to one group or another. He had enormous respect from the Russians, enormous respect from the Americans, and he contributed in both fields.
I used to spend hours at the eyepiece, wearing my old flying jacket to keep out the cold, charting lunar features and making drawings and maps. And frequently, a little soft background music.
In all, 9 American spacecraft journeyed to the moon in just a 3-year window lasting until 1972. The astronauts on board, the only human beings so far to have set foot on another world. Sir Patrick knew all of them. He's speaking to us 10 years ago, aged 86.
One of the great moments in human history, and I'm actually on the air commenting. My main feeling was one of anxiety. If they'd made a faulty landing or come across a piece of unsafe ground, we couldn't have got back. When I heard Neil's voice coming through, the eagle has landed. That was a great moment.
The eagle has landed. Rocket.
Sir Patrick Moore died at his Chelsea home in 2012. His legacy is part of those lunar missions to be remembered for centuries to come. Andy Dickinson, ITV News.